Hey there, y'all. So our topic today for this video is late summer scouting in preparation for the early hunting season for deer. Now here in Virginia, first weekend of October is when our archery season opens. So it's September now. I got a couple weeks before the season starts, so I'm putting the finishing touches on my scouting. Now I do my late summer scouting in two phases. About a month ago, before the acorns started dropping, I came out and I scanned the trees looking for the acorns so I'd kind of be ahead of the game and know where they were, and I went ahead and put trail cameras out. Now I'm jumped ahead. The acorns are actually hitting the ground. We got a lot of them here too, and I've got a little bit of trail camera data to help me decide on stand sites and to figure out which trails are active. So now what I'm going to be looking for today is stand sites, and I've actually got a couple stands with me I'm going to probably hang. And I'm going to be looking for stand sites at pinch points or funnels, places that will help me figure out exactly where the deer is going to be so I can set up within bow range. And also, because we have a lot of acorns, the deer don't have to move much. So what I'm going to be doing is looking for white oaks that are very close to bedding areas, because what will happen, the deer get up out of their beds. If they don't have to travel far, that's where you want to be, because that's be the first place they stop, hopefully, to feed after they get up out of their beds in the evenings. So I'm going to try to keep this video short as possible. I know y'all don't like long videos, but I got a lot of stuff to cover, so we're going to get to it. And the thing about acorns in the woods, a lot of times when I'm out here early trying to figure out where the acorns are, I don't see any down low on the branches, and that's very common in big woods. And so a lot of times these trees will be loaded with nuts way, way up high, but you can't see them. So that's why I bring my binoculars. Very important tool for looking for acorns before they start hitting the ground. So what I've been doing is, like this tree right here, there's no visible acorns, but when I look up in the top on those higher limbs, I see a lot. So that's good. I know that in a couple weeks, there's going to be acorns on the ground right here, and there will be deer feeding here. But it's very important in this part of the season to determine where that food is, because when bow season rolls around in October, if you bow hunt before rut, it's going to be all about the food. So I'll take the camera and I'll zoom up here and I'll show you what I'm talking about with those nuts. Right here is a big oak tree that fell in a storm last year. It's about 90 feet long, and it came straight down this ridge. There's a bedding area back up here, just a little ways to the edge of it, probably 50 to 75 yards up there with a deer bed. They had trails that came across this ridge right here. That tree, when it fell, it blocked two different trails that were coming out here. So what the deer are doing now, they're coming down and going around the end of the tree. That's a classic pinch point. And we'll go over and look at that trail here in just a second. All right, so there's the tree, comes down here like this. And now you can see the trail that they're using to go around the end of the tree. A really good trail. And there's the bedding area up there. Up here in the stand I just hung. Now here's that big tree that fell. There's the root, and it comes all the way down here. It's about 90 feet long. Okay? And right where it ends, if you look right there, there's the trail. All right, now here's the spot we looked at where the fallen tree blocked the trail, creating a pinch point or a funnel. And so we have our bedding up here. We have our food, which is acorns, right down in here. And this blue line represents the trail. And this trail used to go right across. And then this tree blocked it. And so those deer are diverting down around the tip of that tree and coming down in here. And so I've got the stand right there, 20 yards from that, where that trail goes right by that tree. So right here is another example of a pinch point. So this trail comes down this ridge, but those deer don't want to walk down in that gully right there. This little spot right here gives them a crossing right beside that big rock. And see below, it's the same situation. It's a big old gully. They'd have to go down in there. This is the easiest path to cut around that deep gully. Right here would be a good place to ambush a deer because the trail comes right in front of that rock. Here's that spot we just looked at in the woods. There's that drainage that comes through, and it's real steep and rocky right in here and right down here. But right there is that little flat spot where the deer can walk through there and not have to go down into the deep ravine. And this blue line is the trail that comes around there. So a good place to set up a stand would be right here on the side of this ridge or on this little point. All right, so I've got a really well-used trail coming through this laurel thicket. That's a bedding area right there. It's very thick laurel all the way up the side of the mountain. They've really been on this trail. You can see how it winds through the laurel. The trail goes out, and then there's oak ridges over there. I got lots of acorns dropping. This liable to be a hot spot. Alright, so when I'm out here doing my late summer scouting and I'm within a month or so of the actual hunting season, on my trips I'm going to bring stands with me. It's a really good time to go ahead and hang a stand so you'll be ready when the season comes. This particular spot I picked right here is 15 yards from that trail we just looked at that comes out of this laurel bedding area. And I got oaks back this way. This should be a real good setup. And speaking of stands, I'm kind of old school. I still like lightweight climbing stands. I know that today a lot of guys are using the saddles, and that's gotten real popular. But I like these climbing stands for the comfort. You know, I don't run and gun hunt. When I go in to hunt a spot, I'm going to be in that stand at least 5 or 6 hours, sometimes longer. And I just don't see myself hanging from a saddle that long. So that's why I still do this. Another thing about a climber is I can easily and very quickly change positions. You know, I can have this thing off the tree and move to another tree, 20 yards away in 10 minutes or even less. And that's real important, especially in early bow season, because, I may pick a spot and realize I'm off just a little bit. I can't get a shot. Maybe I only need to move, you know, 20, 30 yards, and this lets me do it really, really easy. Also, these climbers are really quiet getting up in the tree, so that's a big bonus. And what I do is I go ahead, I've got a bunch of stands, and so all the different places I'm going to scout, I'm going to carry a stand or two in there. And sometimes I won't hang it on a tree, sometimes I'll just stash it in the woods because I'm not 100% sure yet which tree to pick. Here's a classic pinch. I got a good trail runs right through here on this bench. I got steep rocks on this side, and then the ridge falls off real steep and it's rocky down there. So the deer is obviously going to prefer to walk right through here. This would be an excellent place for a stand. This is really cool. First rub I've seen this season. There's a spot of blood where his velvet was bloody. He just rubbed that. There's the shavings right there. Another fresh rub. That's a good sign. Right now here is a hot spot. See this trail? I mean, it's being used, well used. There's a laurel bedding area right there. I mean, I'm right on the edge of it. And right here, not 30 yards from the laurel, there's acorns everywhere. I mean, look at that. They're just laying in piles right here. So all those deer have to do is come down, start feeding just as soon as they get out of their bed. They don't have to travel far at all. Another mountain feature that's really good for funneling deer movement is a saddle. And the saddle is pretty simple. You got a high point and a high point connected by the saddle right there. And my favorite types of saddles are the ones where it's really steep on each side. Because if it's really steep on each side, it's almost certain that the deer are going to move through here. So that's a really, really good funnel point. In this particular case, there's laurel on this ridge, and these deer bed on these points. And then they come out of their beds and they move across that saddle. That's a really, really good mountain feature. And that's the kind of place you can just take your maps and scout if you're not familiar with the territory, and you can find these and then go in there and check them out. And I'll show you another one. Again, here's another saddle, very similar to that last one. You have your two high points right here, and as you can see by your grid lines, it's real steep on both sides of that saddle, which is almost certainly going to move deer through here.